Hi, my name is Emily Brown. I am a senior here at SVSU and I am a professional and technical writing major. This presentation is going to be about my writing. I'm going to be talking about some of the experiences I've had with my writing here at SVSU and just some of my follies, some of the things that I've done really well. So let's get started. What am I best at writing? I believe that I'm really good at writing professional documents such as research proposals or papers. I'm going to call up this one really quick. This is one that I wrote for RPW 300 last year. It was called The Future of the Publishing Industry, What Will Happen If Bookstores Close. I was really proud of this particular research proposal because I did a lot of research. I spent a lot of time digging through different articles, reading a bunch of different opinions on why the bookstore Borders closed and Barnes & Noble didn't close, the problem, what we can do to combat the problem, and it was just a really eye-opening experience writing this paper, not only because I felt like I was writing about something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, but because I want to go into editing. I want to edit books for like a publishing company like Simon & Schuster or Penguin Random House, and writing that paper kind of gave me a sense of hope that the editing industry, the publishing industry, is not going to die because people are going to want to keep reading. It doesn't matter that maybe big bookstores are going to close, probably within 10, 15 years, but that because of e-readers and PDFs and stuff, being able to read books on your devices, on your technology, it's going to keep the publishing industry alive. It's just going to be on a different kind of format, and so that kind of gave me hope that the industry I want to go into is not going to die, and I'm probably still going to be able to get a job. Another professional document I was really proud of was my design assessment that I created for RPW 304 this semester. I can't call it up on screen because I'm having some issues with the PDF and I'm still not sure how to fix it, but the design assessment was a project where I had to take an object that I use in my everyday life. I chose my vanity, and we had to figure out what was good about the design, what was bad about the design, what we could improve on it, and I kind of looked at it as like a mini usability study. Even though it's not like technology based, it's still, trying to figure out what's wrong with the product, what could be made better, and how we could make it better. And so I thought that was really cool, and I really liked that I was able to think about this in a different sort of way than just saying this is what sucks about the product and this is how we can fix it, but kind of applying it as a usability study kind of gave me, I don't know, it was just a little more fun for me that way to think about it like that. And it was a really fun project because I got to think about a product that I use every single day in my life and how, what I personally think would make it better and that kind of thing. I also created an annual report for my Writing and Community Organizations class last semester for the Ridgeville Fire Department. And not only do I think the content I created for this project was really good, but I think the design is really cool too. And this project was really fun because I got to, interview the firefighters and talk to them about their experiences. I got to talk to the community on about how the fire department impacted them and all the good stuff that they were doing for our community. And it was just kind of a humbling experience, and I was really glad I was able to partake in that. And then I also believe that I am pretty good at writing fiction short and chapter stories. This one, my short story I wrote for English 305 maybe, just creative writing fiction. This was about this guy named Mason who's kind of stuck in a rut in his life, and this new superhero comes along and he becomes obsessed with him, and it was one of the stories that I'm most proud of, just for the fact that everybody seemed to really love it, and I didn't love it that much, but it kind of made me love it just a little bit more, and then it kind of became my baby as I was editing it, and everybody who's read it loved it, so I think that makes me feel really good as a writer. Adapting to kinds of writing and audiences. I have, in this department, in my experiences here at SVSU, I have had to think about audiences in a much different way than I've had to all my life, even when I was at Delta writing my papers and things like that. So I'll start out talking about the usability research team that I was on this semester and hopefully going to be continue doing. This semester we were creating and improving the Saginaw County Commission on Aging website, and for my role in this project was I was supposed to rewrite the welcome page and the transportation page, and that went really well. I just basically had to think about, the people who are going to be on this website. They're probably going to be elderly or maybe, mid to late 40s, 50s. I don't consider those people elderly, but I had to think about it and use language that was kind of to the point but still professional sounding so that it would still give the website agency, and I had to kind of think about how to set up the information so that those people who are going to be looking at the website could easily access it. But not only that, I also had to write some HTML code for the page so that when we gave it to the editor, she could just put it up and hopefully be able to not have to do any more editing other than that. And that was really challenging because I've never written HTML code before. But I got through. I think I did a pretty good job. In my multimedia writing class, we did a podcast assignment and a video documentary assignment. And for those two, I had to think about audience and writing my kind of scripts and shot lists differently, because these were going to be used for the documentary, more informational, professional, but also both of them as entertainment kind of pieces. And so that was interesting because I had to make sure that what we were talking about or doing or saying was not only entertaining, but it was still professional sounding. In RPW 480, this semester, class I took this semester, we had to play a role-playing game called The Threshold of Democracy, which was where we pretended to be characters back in like 400 BC Athens, right after the Peloponnesian War had ended. And in this game, we had to take on the personas of characters that maybe didn't totally agree with their policies, their politics, that didn't agree with ours. And my character was a tyrant, to say the least. And so when I was writing my speeches for this class, I not only had to step outside of my own personal political viewpoints, but I had to step inside of this character Aristarchus and pretend that I was an aristocrat who hated women and slaves and thought that the people who were educated under my own personal philosophy were better than everyone else. And I had to write my speeches to try and convince my classmates of this as well, which was really hard. I tried to center my speeches in historical fact and like resources that you couldn't really argue with, and it was very interesting. It was very difficult, but I had a lot of fun doing it. We weren't successful. I believe the Democrats won. And then lastly, I was this semester the first official PTW recording studio intern. what this meant was that I was editing the podcast for the Technical Rapport, which was our department's podcast, and thinking about audience and writing, not so much writing, more editing audio, but thinking about audience with this internship was sometimes kind of challenging, because sometimes Dr. Bill and Dr. K would give me like 4 or 5 audio clips that they wanted to put all under one episode, and sometimes the interviews that were on those clips didn't always mesh well. Sometimes the topics weren't totally, coherent or congruent, and so it was hard because I had to listen to the whole thing and then try and find the similarities within those conversations and create a story out of maybe 5-10 minute snippets of each of those interviews. So that was really challenging, but it was a lot of fun. It was very rewarding. There's going to be a podcast about it coming up here soon if you want to listen to it. So my emotional connection to my writing. I am very emotionally connected to my writing, especially when it comes to my short stories or chaptered stories. And the reason why is because, especially with my fiction, it's stuff that I tend to experience. The writing I do is stuff that I tend to experience in my life and put it down on pages and try to make it, fun and entertaining. And so when people, criticize it to help me make it better, sometimes it's hard for me to accept that that criticism, even though it's helpful usually. But I'm getting better about that, because I know it's not criticism just to criticize. It's trying to, my peers are just trying to help me. And when it comes to my professional documents and things like that, I'm more easily able to accept the criticism and make my papers better, because it's easier. It's not as personal. But with my short stories and my chapter stories, it gets harder. My best writing ever, Our Masked Hero, like I had already talked about, I'm very proud of. The Richville Fire Department Annual Report, I'm very proud of. There and Then, Here and Now was my manuscript of all the poetry that I wrote for my classes, or for my poetry class. And I really think this is good, because the manuscript kind of tells a story of my personal experiences, of past experiences that I've had, and more current at the time experiences that I was having. And it was a lot of fun to write and put together, and I think it turned out really great. This is for David, Sachs, and Trevor. That was my sestina that I wrote for extra credit for my Intro to Lit Studies class. If you don't know what a sestina is, it's this very complicated poem where you start out with your first paragraph of 6 lines, and each of the last word of each line you have to repeat in a certain pattern over in the next stanzas, and then your last stanza, stanza or paragraph has to be 3 lines, and it has to repeat those 6 words. It's very difficult to write, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it turned out okay, even though maybe the content of the poem wasn't as deep and more juvenile. And I was also really proud of my Community on Aging webpage content and code, like I had already talked about. I don't know, I was just really proud of it because I'd never written for a website before, and I've never written code before, and it was all new stuff that I had to do, and I am really, really proud of how it turned out, and I can't wait to see these web pages come into fruition so I can pull them up on screen and be like, I did that. That was all me. Well, not all me, but the words, those are mine. And it was a really rewarding experience, so I can't wait to explore new types of writing and challenge myself in the next coming semesters, and I am very grateful that I get to be a part of such a wonderful department. And that's all I've got. Okay, bye!